told you when Leon was here, it's always amazing the varied background we have on our Rotarians and the passions. Leon was bird watching, and of course Derek Hodges was UFC cage fighter in the and apparently Judge Gardner is starting a football school. Our speaker today is our friend Jack Ford. Jack was a minor league baseball player for a number of years, and to tell us more about that is Jack Ford.
Thank you very much, Terry. I've never given a presentation like this or on this subject before, so we may be out of here in about 5 minutes. I'm not sure. Could be here till 1:30. I really don't know. That's not going to happen. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is just kind of give you some of my background and just tell you a little bit about, and I've got maybe a few stories that might be interesting. But I played minor league baseball. I was a left-handed pitcher. I played for 6 years. Basically, I started out like everybody else, played in high school. My senior year, I'm from Paris, Texas, small town in northeast Texas. My senior year, we won the state championship. And I think it was the first time Paris, Texas had ever won the state baseball championship. And I was honored to be chosen to pitch in the Texas All-Star game, which I was the first person ever from Paris, Texas to pitch in the Texas All-Star game, and there hasn't been another one since. So it was 25 years ago this summer. So that was pretty neat. That was in the Astrodome, and I went down for 3 days and just, met the big leaguers and got to hang out in the locker room of the Astrodome, and then pitched in the Astrodome, and I started the game and I got the win. And so that was a really neat experience. So from there I went on to college. My freshman year in college I went to Sam Houston State, which is just north of Houston, Texas. And you're going to notice something that kind of reoccurs here almost every year. But when I got there in the fall, at the end of the fall, I got injured my freshman year. So I didn't really pitch the entire spring season. I think I might have pitched in 1 or 2 games right at the end of the year, and that was it. But the few games I did pitch in, of course, I had to rehab and get ready to pitch. So I had been pitching for about a month, and come to find out, I graduated high school at 17 years old. I was in college at 17. I turned 18 the spring semester in college. While my body had matured some, I gained 10 miles an hour on my fastball my freshman year of college while I was hurt and I wasn't pitching and I was rehabbing. So I went from throwing in the low 80s to throwing 90 in the low 90s. I said, well, the heck with this college thing, I'm going pro. This is nuts. So you can't get drafted out of a 4-year school until after your junior year. So I said, well, I'm going to go back to junior college. So I moved back home. I went back to Paris Junior College, where right after I got there, I had severe nerve damage in my left arm, my throwing arm. I had to walk around in a sling for about 6 months, like this. So halfway through the spring season, I was able to pitch again. And I was still throwing pretty good, but I hadn't pitched all year. So I didn't get drafted. So then I moved down to Southwest Texas State, which is in San Marcos, Texas. I had a very good year there. The only year, I believe, I stayed healthy the entire year. And had a really good year. A story I've got from that is the Atlanta Braves called me towards the end of the year, and it's illegal to have private tryouts with teams right before the draft, the major league draft. So they actually called my coach and said, we want to run Jack through a private tryout, and obviously nobody can know about this. I said, fine, sure. So we got a catcher, and we went out to the field when nobody was around, way after, or on a Sunday or something. And I threw for him, and I was popping the radar gun really good. My curveball was sharp. So the scout said, all right, I'll tell you what. We want to draft you, and we want to get you in the top 10 rounds. The year I got drafted, there were 82 rounds to the draft. It's not like a football draft. There were 82 rounds. So he said, we want to get you in the top 10. If we get you in the 10th round, we'll offer you a $60,000 signing bonus. Of course, if we get you any earlier than that, the signing bonus will go up. Will you sign and leave school after your junior year? I looked at him. Yeah, you're going to hand a 20-year-old kid $60,000 minimum, and you're asking me if I'm going to leave? Yeah, I'm out of here. So I basically quit going to class. I don't even think I went to my finals. So draft day comes around and I'm back home, sitting there waiting for the phone call. I don't get a phone call. Second day of the draft comes around, the phone finally rings. Pittsburgh Pirates took me in the 35th round. So signed for a $3,000 signing bonus. Basically, I flunked out of school. I quit going. So I really had no choice at that point. I was going to sign anyway if I got drafted. So anyway, that's my college years. My first year, I guess I've got a little funny story here. This doesn't really have anything to do with baseball. This is just kind of a young, dumb kid from Texas who used to have a southern drawl. But the scout came from the Pirates to my house and sat down with myself and my parents. And, we hashed it out and said, okay, the $3,000, and they threw in like one more year of college paid for us. And I said, all right, well, where am I going to be playing? Where are you going to send me to play? And he said, well, in Canada. I said, okay, I'm thinking, if you don't want to tell me, don't tell me. So I'm telling all my friends, where are you going to play? I don't know, but it's well into Canada. And come to find out, it was Welland, Canada, which is just across the border from Buffalo. So, and I had to tell everybody, well, it's not really well into Canada, it's just across the border from Buffalo. So, let's see, where does that get me to? So, okay, I went up to Welland, Canada, and first of all, I wanted to say that I think there are a lot more minor leagues than most people realize. There's rookie ball, short season A ball, low A, middle A, high A, double A, and triple A. Most people just think, oh, there's A ball, double A, and triple A. There's a lot more leagues than that. So I started out in short season A ball, which is where everybody that comes out of college usually starts out. Out there, I had been really overused my junior year of college, and my arm was pretty much dead, and then I got tendonitis right after I got to Welland. So if you get hurt during the season, they send you to wherever your spring training base would be, and you rehab there. So I went back down there, and I rehabbed in, it was Bradenton, Florida, Pirate City. So I rehabbed there, and finished that. It was a short season, it was only 3 months, and when you start after college. So I finished the year there, but I had a story from there where in spring training, you basically have 4 baseball fields, and the home plates are all kind of together, and then they just kind of spread out. So it's just a big circle. And there's really no stands or anything there. You've got one set of aluminum bleachers. And for these rookie ball games, or basically the spring training, you don't have any fans on those bleachers. There's nobody. There might be a couple of people there. Well, we walk out one day, and there's Dick Vitale sitting on the bleachers. We're going, all right, what's going on here? Why is Dick Vitale here? So, of course, everybody started asking around. And this was 1992. So I'm going to see if you guys can guess. But we were playing the Yankees that day. And Dick Vitale was there to see somebody's debut. Anybody guess who that might have been?
Jeter.
Jeter. It was Derek Jeter. He was debuting with the Yankees. He had just signed. So that's why Dick Vitale was there. I've got a few things I'm going to pass around here. This is my picture with the Pirates. I've got 3 baseball cards here, and I'll just set on top of them. But this is that first year I was with the Pirates, and probably the first thing you'll notice is I really haven't changed a bit. They like looking in a mirror. It hasn't changed. Let's see. Okay, so from then, the next season, went back to spring training, and in spring training, I tore 3 oblique muscles in my rib cage. And that's not a fun one to rehab from. Basically, the rehab for torn oblique muscles is you get in a whirlpool hot tub for 15 minutes, and then you get in one full of ice for 15 minutes. When you go from that hot to that cold, it's like 1,000 needles poking at you, and you just go back and forth. And that's really all you can do for it. So I did that for a month. So, did that for a month, got rehab, started throwing again. So then I got sent to A-ball, which was with the Pirates. That was Augusta, Georgia. A lot of you probably know Augusta from home of the Masters. And I drove by that Masters golf course for a straight month before I ever knew it was there. You'd never in a million years know it's there. It's just like hedges, and there's a sign smaller than a stop sign that says Augusta National. They don't want anybody to know it's there. And never got in, never saw it. You can't get in. But, let's see. Another interesting fact is When I was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, you have a pitching coach who's over all the minor league teams. And when I was there, I had Pete Vukovich. And I don't know if you know that, some of you will know the name, Pete Vukovich. One of the things he's famous for is he was the worst Cy Young Award winner of all time. He had the highest ERA when he won the Cy Young that anybody's ever had. And if you don't know who Pete Vukovich is, if you've seen the movie Major League, he was the big first baseman. He was in the movie Major League. Charlie Sheen struck out at the end. If you haven't seen the movie, I just ruined it for you. And Charlie Sheen struck him out at the end. I hope you've all seen the movie, or you're not going to see it now. Quick story I wanted to tell about when I was with the Pirates. This was in spring training, and I was pitching on the AA squad in spring training, and another buddy of mine, Michel LaPlante, was pitching also. And Andy Van Slyke, you might know that name, he was an all-star outfielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates for many years. Well, he was rehabbing an injury. So instead of playing in the big league spring training game, they sent him down to play in the AA spring training game, and they just said, he's going to lead off every inning. He's going to get 9 at-bats in at least. That's what you get to do when you're Andy Van Slyke. So he was playing center field for us, and my buddy Michel LaPlante was pitching, and I think Michel had 2 outs, nobody out. And somebody popped it up to center field, and Andy Van Slyke camped under it, clank, just dropped the fly ball. Well, Michel got the next hitter out and walked back to the dugout, but he stood there at the entrance to the dugout and waited for Andy Van Slyke. He stood there, and when Van Slyke came in the dugout, he stopped him. He said, "Hey, don't worry about it, kid, you'll make the spot." That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So, I pitched that year in Augusta, Georgia, made it through the whole year, well, the rest of the year anyway. The next year in spring training, I got released. And I ended the year with a 2.4 ERA, and I actually ended up with a folder of all my information in it. I wasn't supposed to ever see it. But the comments my manager had in there were, Jack did the job every time he was asked, but he can't stay healthy and he never will. And that's what it said in the folder. And I got released. And come to find out, he was absolutely right. I got hurt every single year. Got released there. So then I started pitching with the Winnipeg Goldeyes, which is, it's a Northern League team. It's a really neat league in the sense that they have 4 or 5 different category players on every team that you have to have. You have to have 4 guys that put in over 10 years of professional experience. So those are almost always major leaguers. So each team had 4 ex-major leaguers on it. And then it would just go down from there. And you'd have to have some guys who have never played, maybe right out of college also, who had never played any pro ball. So it was a really interesting league. And there were guys there that I learned a lot from. I was just going to drop a few names because and I'm sorry if you're not a baseball fan, this is going to be very boring, but if you are a baseball fan, you're going to know some of these names. These are some of the guys I played with there. There's Oil Can Boyd. There was Leon Bull Durham. He was the first baseman for the Cubs. There was Pedro Guerrero. He was another good one. My catcher was Dan Villardello. He played for about 7 years in the major leagues. So I met a lot of neat guys there too. And that year in Winnipeg, we won the Northern League Championship. And I've got a ring to prove it. I'll pass this around if you want to take a look at it. But that year in Winnipeg was definitely the most fun year I had playing baseball. Because they had the Winnipeg Jets, which was the football team. And so they kind of thought we were kind of like a major league team. And they really treated us like we were a major league team. And the stadium we played in was the football stadium, so we could seat 30,000 people. Well, we could seat over 30,000. In the championship game, we actually had 30,000 people in stands. So that was pretty neat, but it was really cool to be treated like a major leaguer. You go into some of these restaurants, and they just give you free food. Everything's free. People will call you, you want to go golfing? We're paying. We're doing the whole thing. Sure, so. That's the ring from Winnipeg. So after Winnipeg, I ended up getting an offer to play winter baseball in Hawaii. That might have been one of the biggest mistakes I made because I pitched the whole year on. I didn't get hurt in Winnipeg. That was one year I didn't get hurt. And I pitched all winter also, so I never gave my arm a chance to rest and rehab. But I played in Hawaii for 9 weeks. My team was stationed, we were the Hawaii Hilo Nanaloa Sharks. As I was Hilo, Hawaii. If you're familiar with Hawaii at all, Hilo is basically a rainforest. But the guy who organized and owned the league was from Hilo, so he wanted to put a team in Hilo. I don't know if we ever played a home game in those 9 weeks. It rains every single day. They don't have the Hard Rock Cafe there, they have the Hard Rain Cafe in Hilo. That's a restaurant there. So we'd wake up in the morning, it would be pouring rain, we would just go rent a car, drive to the other side of the island and go to the beach all day. You know, we'd start having cocktails at 1 or 2 and just hope it's still raining over there. We're not going to make it back. So, but that was a neat experience because each team was on a different island, so we'd have to hop islands every 3 days to go play a different team. There were a lot of good players there. I played on my team that year was Preston Wilson. He spent some time in the major league, but that's Mookie Wilson's son. So, okay, so after Hawaii, how am I doing on time? I have no idea. I'm good. Okay. So after Hawaii, the Chicago White Sox signed me, and I pitched in Hickory, North Carolina that year. Good story there. My manager in Hickory, North Carolina was Cookie Rojas' son. And again, if you're a baseball fan, Cookie Rojas was a famous baseball player. And so his son was my manager. And that year I was in Winnipeg. I really learned how to pitch, and I had a really, really good year. And it kind of carried over to my year at Hickory. And to start the season, that first month, starting the season, I pitched 5 or 6 games that month. But I was 4-0. With an ERA of under 1. I think I gave up 1 or 2 runs the entire month. And so I was voted Chicago White Sox Player of the Month that month. And that was from the major leagues all the way down to the rookie ball. So this is what I got for that. You can see it's engraved on back. I got a gold watch. And it's pretty small print, but basically it just says, I can barely even read it. Wow. This was a long time ago. It says Jack Ford Player of the Month, Chicago White Sox, April 1996. You know what? I skipped one about Hawaii. When I was in Hawaii, it was kind of the top prospects from A and AA, which doesn't make any sense of why I was there. But there was also a lot of Japanese players there from Japan. They sent some of their guys over to play in Hawaii. And you know, as a custom in Japan, you know, at the end of a season like this, you exchange something with the player. So there was a guy on the team from Japan who was a left-handed pitcher also. So he gave me a pair of his cleats. And the dirt on these is either from Japan or Hawaii. I'm not sure, I've never worn them. But they are pretty interesting. They do not look very comfortable at all. And that's what they had to wear. Okay, so the reason I was bringing up Cookie Rojas as a manager is, of course, his father was famous, so he had some pull. And I want to say in 6 years of playing minor league baseball, I only had 1 day off where we weren't traveling. So we had a home game, a day off, and a home game the next day. And that was very, very rare. You never get a day. When you have a day, you get 1 day off a month, and you're usually traveling, driving 10 or 12 hours to the next town. So my manager asked me, Rojo, he said, Jack, what are you going to do with your day off? And I said, I don't know, but I just heard on the radio there's a Jimmy Buffett concert in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we were about an hour and 15 minutes away from Charlotte, and I'm a Buffett fan. He goes, oh, that would be neat. He goes, give me about an hour. So I went in and did my stuff, and about an hour later, and this was when I got that gold watch. And when you're pitching really well, your manager loves you. They'll do anything for you. So he called me back in about an hour later. He said, all right, Jack, I've got 4 tickets with VIP passes and a limo coming to pick you up here tomorrow at noon. Find 3 other guys you want to take with you. So that was pretty cool. He got that all done in an hour. I don't know. I know he didn't pay for it, but somebody comped it along the way. So that was pretty cool. I did buy him a t-shirt. So that year went along, and about halfway through the season, my arm started wearing out again. I didn't really get hurt, just kind of dead arm, and my velocity started dropping. Kind of did that every year. If I ever pitched over a half a season, and it wasn't because I wasn't in shape. I ran. I ran more than anybody else, but I had really bad mechanics, and I'm very, very small. Believe it or not, out of the 6 years I played, there was only 1 year, one team, that there was a pitcher on the team. There's 12 pitchers on every team. Only one pitcher was shorter than me. So in 6 years, every pitcher I played with was tall. I'm 6 foot, so most pitchers are about 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". But I guess I bring that up because the smaller you are, if you're throwing just as hard as somebody who's 6'5", which I was, it's putting a lot more torque on your arm. And again, bad mechanics didn't help. So the next year, I ended up in Prince William, which is just right outside of Washington, D.C. About the only thing really interesting that happened that year, and they moved me back to the bullpen that year, and I really like being a starting pitcher, but they put me in the bullpen that year. And about halfway through the year, like I said, I was a left-handed pitcher, and I was really good at getting out left-handed hitters. Left-handed hitters really just couldn't hit me. About halfway through the year, they said, Jack, called me in the office and said, we're going to make you a left-handed specialist for the rest of this year. That means I'm just going to come in and I'm only going to be facing left-handed hitters. I said, oh, all right, that's what you want to do. So I think it was that night. I got called in about the 7th or 8th inning. There was a man on second and a left-handed hitter on. I threw the left-handed hitter one pitch. He hit a weak ground ball to second base, got him out. Runner on second moved to third. A right-handed hitter came up. They made me intentionally walk him. Then another left-handed hitter came up, and I threw him one pitch, and he hit a weak ground ball to first base, and the inning was over. I kind of jogged into the dugout, and my manager stopped me and said, keep that up, you'll be in the big leagues next year. I said, all right, that sounds good to me. I never got out another left-handed hitter. That was it. I don't know what, it was mental, I don't know what. No lefty could hit me before that. After he said that to me, I couldn't get a left-handed hitter out. So that was that. So that was my last year with the White Sox, and I got released. The next year I went back to spring training with them, and I pretty much expected to be released because I knew I had to get moved up to double or triple A or get released, and I knew the people that were there ahead of me, and unfortunately we were talking at the table a little bit, but politics plays into baseball a lot more than people think. When I was in Hickory and I got that gold watch and my manager loved me and everything, I came walking into the clubhouse one day and he said, Jack, stop, I need to talk to you, come into my office. Went into the office and he said, Jack, I don't know how to tell you this, but Robert Todal just got moved up. He was another starting pitcher on that team. He wasn't pitching very well at all. He was kind of lousy, but he threw in the mid-90s and he signed for a lot of money. So that was kind of one of the first signs that when they moved him up, I didn't get moved up, that, you know, this probably isn't going to work out. So anyway, yeah, I got released the next year. And the manager that I had in Winnipeg was now managing same Northern League team, or same Northern League, but in Fargo, North Dakota. So he called me, matter of fact, he called my parents 2 weeks before I got released and said, hey, is Jack there? And my mom said, no, he's in spring training with the White Sox. And Doug, the manager there, said, well, he's going to be getting released. So as soon as he gets released, have him give me a call. I want to pitch for me in Fargo. Nice. And he knew. So my mom called me and said, hey, Doug called here, said you're getting released. Doug would know. Yeah. All right, well, you know, I packed my bag and I lasted 2 more weeks. And that time when they called me in the office and released me, it wasn't a surprise. You know, I knew it was coming. I went up to Fargo, and at that point, my arm was really shot. Again, nothing that surgery could help, just I had lost. I was probably throwing in the low 80 miles an hour versus the low 90s at that time. So I made it half a year in Fargo, and I just pretty much hung it up. That was it. I'll talk a little bit more about, you know, minor leagues. First year I played, we were talking about this at the table, there's a lawsuit against it right now. But I made $850 a month, playing 7 days a week. You know, you usually start around noon and go to 11, or maybe 2 o'clock and go to 11, but it's below minimum wage. You know, it's very tough to live on. I ended up making, my last year I was all the way up to $1,250 a month, so I was raking it in pretty good at that point. And now in Hawaii, I was getting paid $1,500 a month because Hawaii is so expensive, but that doesn't go very far. Let's see here. I thought I'd drop a few other, just do a little more name dropping. One of the guys I played against an awful lot was Andrew Jones. And sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. Andrew Jones couldn't hit me. If I faced him 20 times, I know I got him out 19 times. Then there was Jose Guillen, the exact opposite. If I faced him 20 times, he got a hit off me 19. You know, can't really figure out what it is, but sometimes you own the hitters and sometimes they own you. But and then I also, I do have another good story. That year that I got to watch, I made the All-Star team, and got down to the All-Star game, and there were 8 or 9 pitchers on the team, and they had me pitching the 5th inning. So I went out and pitched the 5th inning, and you know, I was pretty excited pitching an All-Star game, so I had a lot of adrenaline going, and I was throwing extra hard this day, with a lot of movement on the fastball. First hitter came up, I struck him out in 3 pitches. 3 fastballs on the outside corner. He swung at all 3 of them. He didn't even foul tip a pitch. Next guy comes up. I throw him that exact same moving, sinking fastball right on the outside corner, and he hit a rocket into right center field. I don't know who my center fielder was, but the guy could fly because he got in the gap and caught it for an out. Next guy comes up, strike him out, no problem with fastballs again. I went to the dugout, and I said, went to the manager, he said, that second hitter, that guy, who was that? And what I was thinking was, first of all, the pitch I threw him on 0-0 count, he shouldn't have even swung at it. It was way too good of it. It was a pitcher's pitch. Second of all, it was in the low 90s, sinking away from him. And I thought, this guy can hit. So the manager looked at the card, and again, if you're a baseball fan, he said, well, it looks like his name is Vladimir Guerrero. I said, that guy's going to make it. He can hit. And if you don't know who Vladimir Guerrero is, he swings at everything. And he made it to the big leagues, all-star teams, and everything else. But that's who that was. Wanted to tell you about a lot of minor league stadiums. They have all these promotions and gimmicks to get fans in. And there was one stadium, I want to say it was Piedmont, North Carolina. But they started in the first inning over the intercom announcing, you know, I'm just going to make up the car, but if you drive a yellow Volkswagen and your license plate is ABCD, it needs to be moved. You say that a couple times in the first inning. Third inning comes around. Again, if you drive a yellow Volkswagen, this vehicle needs to be moved. They do it in the 3rd inning, 5th inning, and finally in the 7th inning, during the 7th inning stretch, a helicopter comes flying over the stadium with a yellow Volkswagen in tow underneath it. And it gets out past center field, and all of a sudden that car drops. Come to find out there's a wrecking yard way out past center field, and this is where they do it about once a month. So you can imagine the stadium when this happens. That car, just everybody goes nuts. I witnessed it twice. I was lucky enough to be there twice. The second time, you know, we're all in on the joke. The first time, I wasn't. A couple more stories. And a lot of times in the minor leagues, you don't have bullpen coaches who sit down in the bullpen where all the relief pitchers are. In the major leagues, you've got a bullpen coach who's always down there. In the minor leagues, you don't have that. Well, you can imagine, just about imagine a bunch of 21, 22, 23-year-old kids all on their own down there with nothing to do every night, all night long. So we used to make up some games. And we started playing hockey with the baseball bats and baseballs. And I guess it was a really slow or boring game or something. But the announcer who was announcing the game started announcing our hockey game. And my manager just happened to be in the clubhouse with the radio on. And I think it went something like, oh, if the puck's passed to Ford, Ford shoots and scores! So, yeah, he didn't like that one very much. Do something to, you know, keep yourself entertained. There was another time, and this is, every once in a while there's a brawl in baseball. And in the minor leagues, if there's a fight out on the field, if you go out on the field, you get fined $50. If you don't go out on the field and there's a brawl, your team fines you $100. So it's pretty much no lose, no win situation. Well, there was one time, this was when I was starting in Hickory, and the clubhouse was quite a ways away from the field. It was down out behind, you know, left field, and we're in the clubhouse eating these buckets of ice cream that we found in the refrigerator, and we're just eating and eating and eating. We're listening to the game. We're not supposed to be in there. We're supposed to be in the dugout or in the, but I think they thought we were in the bullpen goofing off or something. We're eating the ice cream, and we're listening to the game. It's being broadcast in there. All of a sudden, we hear the announcer that a brawl just broke out. We went flying out of that clubhouse, jumped the outfield fence, went tearing up there. By the time we got to the infield, well, the brawl was, it was over. Now, I got that bill in the mail for $50 because I was out there in the brawl. And I thought, well, I wasn't out there in the brawl, but I can either pay this 50 or fight it and then pay 100 because I didn't get my butt out there. So I just paid the $50. You know, that's really about all I have. Are there any questions? Yes.
Did you ever call Atlanta back?
I never did, and you know, I'm pretty sure that scout wasn't as high up as I thought he was. He didn't have much power, I don't think.
Jack, what's your take on all these unwritten rules of baseball? Your beat balls, protecting your players?
Absolutely. You have to. You have to. I mean, you never throw at anybody's head, ever. You never throw at a hitter's head. Anywhere from here to here is fine. And if they hit one of your guys and it's on purpose, you better hit one of their guys. And there were, you know, there was, of course, the catcher gives signs. You know, one's usually a fastball, two curveball, wiggle is changeup. That's beat 'em. You ever see on TV? They're probably trying to be hiding, but if you ever see a catcher do that, the hitter's going down on the next pitch. So. Any other questions? Yes.
Would you change your way of doing things, you know, maybe finish college, you had to do it over again, or?
I would change a lot of things. I would really change a lot of things. Yeah, I definitely was overused a lot. I was way overused in high school. I don't think I would have changed that. In professional baseball, with the White Sox, there are pitch limits, and it's 120 pitches is the most you can go. Although I did go over it one time because in Hickory, they let me go over it because I was about to set the all-time strikeout record in Hickory, which I did. I struck out the third out in the ninth inning to get it, but I went about 130 pitches. In high school, I threw 388 pitches in 5 days. So that, I looked like I had a golf ball in my elbow after that. But it got us to the state championship, so I wouldn't change it.
What, since you was all over the world playing everywhere and that, what got you here to Cape?
Slumberland Furniture. When I ended up in Fargo, I ended up as a regional manager with Slumberland corporately. And then this one came up for sale, and that's when I had the opportunity to purchase it. Yes?
I asked you at the table earlier about catchers, and you said that you caught, or you threw to a lot of different catchers.
Yes.
Do you call your own game then?
Always, yeah. In minor league or Major League Baseball, the pitcher's always calling his own game. Yeah. Terry?
Steroid use and all that back in your days, was that commonplace or not?
No, there was none when I played. I've been asked about that a lot. It's very sad to say, but there are very, very few minor league players that would not have taken them if they would have been offered. If you go from making $850 a month to making $10 million a year by taking steroids, it's going to happen. So the ban and the drug testing is definitely the only way to get rid of it. Yes.
One question I've always had about baseball in general, probably pertaining more to the major leagues than anything, but I'm sure you experience in minor league baseball, is different umpires have different strike zones.
Yes, they do.
And different pitchers have different effective points within the strike zone.
Yep.
And I've always wondered if they don't keep track of certain umpires and certain pitchers, who does well with that particular umpire.
A team or a batter? Is that what you're asking about?
Well, the pitcher versus the umpire, okay?
Well, it's, you know, that's going to
It has
be,
be a factor.
it can be, but it's out of everybody's control. Because as far as the starting pitchers go, you're on that 5-day rotation. So you're not going to, they're not going to say, hey, we're not going to let you pitch today even though it's your turn because we're going to have a different umpire tomorrow. So that's really never going to happen. But you get to know the umpires and you know what their strike zone's like and they kind of get to know you. And you know, the more control you have and the more strikes you throw, the more they're going to call strikes, the more they're going to give you outside of the zone. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, you just have to kind of adjust. There's only two ways to pitch. One is to pitch to the pitcher's strength, and the other is to the hitter's weakness. In the minor leagues, you're almost always pitching to your strength because everybody gets moved up and down and around so much, you really never get to know the hitters and know what their weakness is.
Earlier in the season, there was, I think somebody got thrown out of a game because they had pine tar in their glove, a pitcher or whatever. And so the hitters, to my surprise, a lot of hitters in Major League said, "Man, give the pitchers whatever they need because I don't want a 95-mile-an-hour fastball coming at my face, basically. Give them some control." So just curious, I mean, you guys, I mean, in the minor leagues, you throw with the balls, you use something to get some extra
How'd
grip?
you
or how's
cheat?
it work?
I can talk about this subject a lot. First of all, the first saying in baseball is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. That's all there is to it. I should have brought a couple gloves. First trick is, most baseball gloves have the rivets here, where the leather goes through. Take a knife, you bend up the rivet a little bit. If you take a baseball and hit it on that rivet, you put a big slice in the ball. If you have a slice in that baseball, and for me, I would put it on this side, throw it, and then the wind is going to have more resistance on this side, so it's going to tail and sink away more. Spitballs. A lot of people tried to throw them. The best way to throw a spitball, and basically what a spitball is it's a knuckleball. It can go in any direction. You don't know where it's going to go. It's almost impossible to hit. But the best way to do it is when you're in the locker room, you get a bar of soap, rub it all over your thigh, put your uniform on, and then when you're out there and you got that good sweat going, you get the lather coming through your pants of that soap. The nice thing about that is it's very slippery. The nice thing is, by the time that ball gets to the catcher's mitt, that soap's evaporated off the ball. There's nothing there. So if the umpire does inspect the ball, they're not going to find anything. Nothing. And as far as the pine tar goes, yeah, I don't. Most ways you cheat when you're pitching make the ball move more. Pine tar wouldn't make it move more. It might give you a better grip on the ball, but you know, there's a rosin bag right behind every mound, which is basically the same thing. That's perfectly legal to use. So I've never really understood why people put pine tar in their caps and use that, because there's a rosin bag right there. That's the same thing, basically. So, any other questions? I didn't pass it around. This was a check from the Topps baseball card company that I got for them to have the rights to make my baseball card. And I never cashed it because they paid me $5 to make it. Still have it. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Jack, great program.
Big money.